Chapter 9. Speech. Today I visit Miram. The thought of it energized every cell of my being. Oran was busily working at the computer, documenting the events of the council meeting. I would not sit. I paced the floor of our cubicle, taking one scroll after another to my new computer. After many minutes of shuffling back and forth, Oran turned in his chair. "Esser! Go! You are driving me crazy. I know you can't wait, and you are doing no good here. Go!" He waved me out the door. In an instant, I was running out the door and down the stairs. Scribes heard the heavy pounding of my feet on the stairs and peered out of their cubicles to see what was going on. I didn't care if I made too much noise. I was flying inside with excitement. If I'd still had my wings, I would have flown to the temple. It wasn't far, but I ran down the marble path that lead to the temple of sacrifice. That led to the temple of sacrifice. People walking turned to see this birdman run, his newly formed muscular arms pushing his body forward. When I got to the bottom of the steps to the temple of sacrifice, I stopped and took a deep breath, my heart pounding. I looked up the steep stairway. Suddenly, I was nervous. I stood like one of the statues that lined the pathway. I thought about my head. What would I be like with the head of a man? What if I was ugly, and especially to her? I knew I had a beautiful head now. The gold on my beak was shiny and beautiful as those on the temples. I knew I had to be a complete man. It was the only way I could live in the world around me. If I didn't do it, I would be chastised the rest of my life. I had learned too well what it meant to be a thing. I had no rights, and if I hadn't been with Shiaba and Pikal all my life, it would have been quite different. I had seen other things on the street being whipped by their owners. I turned around, viewing the city of Alta behind me. This would be the last time I would see the world with these eyes. My eyes had always been strong, able to see beyond any man's sight. I could spot a hawk flying in the air miles away. I prayed my eyes could still retain their strength. I turned back around and slowly mounted the steps that led to the entrance. When I reached the top, I could see Sale as if he was waiting for me. I walked bravely towards him, my eyes seeking out Miram, but she wasn't there. "Esser!" I nodded my head. "The High Priestess regrets that she is unable to attend to you this morning. She is in a meeting this morning preparing for the great conference of the Children of the Law One tonight." Oh no, I thought. My heart fell into my stomach. I was devastated. Not there, I thought. I could only stand dumbfounded in front of the little priest. He gave me a moment and then said, "I'm sure she can see you later. Come back this afternoon." I hadn't quite recovered from the blow that she wasn't there. Then it registered what he said. This afternoon. I bowed my head in understanding to Sale and slowly descended the stairs. I still felt a little hurt despite the fact that it was only a delay. I couldn't wait to see her. I was fascinated at her ability to read my thoughts and also to speak to me in my head. She was so beautiful. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I stopped. I didn't want to return to work, having not had a transformation, but I couldn't wander the streets alone, even the temple streets. I took a deep breath, and with my head hanging low, I headed back to the Temple of Records. I entered our cubicle and slumped down into my chair. Oran was surprised to see me with no major physical changes. He couldn't help but tease me. "What happened? Aren't the crystals operating today?" I let out a vulgar noise in response, letting my friend know that it wasn't amusing. Oran could see that I wasn't very happy. "I'm sorry. Is she going to do it?" I nodded dejectedly that she was. "So what is the problem?" I turned away from my friend. Oran started to catch on to what was happening. "I know what that is." He walked over and put his arms around me. "It's great. You're in love, aren't you?" I nodded, appearing embarrassed, which I was. "It's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm in love too, but I think you already knew that, didn't you?" I nodded again. "Listen, things don't always go the way you want when you're in love. I mean, look at last night. My evening with the Tuitude certainly didn't turn out the way I wanted, but it's all right. I'm going to see her again, and you're going to see Miram again. We have plenty of time to work on relationships. we'd like to cultivate with them. We just have to be patient and know in our hearts that it will work out. He gave me a big hug. Oran scratched the top of my feathered head. Come on, we have lots of work here. Now that you have fingers, you can learn how to operate the computer. Come, I'll teach you. I learned a lot that day. It wasn't a surprise, Oran, that I was quick to learn, although I could never converse if I had indeed ever learned from the reading lessons Shiaba had given us. It was evident now that I had gained something from watching her teach Oran to read the holy books. Jekun, a fellow scribe that had worked with Oran in the Hall of Records, watched in amazement as I copied some documents into the computer. This is definitely a first, a thing doing documentation here in the Hall of Records. Oran was like a proud father. You wait, Akon. This is only the beginning. He smiled and patted me on the back. The afternoon seemed to speed by for me. I had no concept of time until Oran told me it was almost time to go home. I looked at the great sundial outside the building and waved back at Oran. I missed my wings for a moment. I would have flown to the temple if I still had them. Instead, I sprinted off towards the temple and raced up the stairs towards the two steps at a time. When I got inside, Sale greeted me again. I thought maybe you'd changed your mind. I shook my head frantically. Sale could see that I was out of breath from running. Come, I'm sure she can see you now. Sale led me down the steps to the tunnel. My stomach was doing flip-flops the whole way. My eyes latched onto the door of the Temple of Beauty ahead of me. I wondered if she would step out to greet me. I hoped she would, but she didn't. Sale opened the door with a jewel on his necklace and motioned for me to enter. She wasn't there. Sale led me into the same room where I had my wings removed. He instructed me to lie on the table and wait. He said that Miram would be there shortly, and he left me alone. I relaxed, feeling the wonderful energy from the crystals. I thought about the work I'd done that day and how good I felt about accomplishing it. Now if only I could speak, I thought. I would be a real scribe like Oran. I could talk to people, and even more, but most important, I could talk to Miram. I hoped that she would transform me wholly now into a man. I began to dream of becoming a man and being with her. Suddenly, startling me out of my daydream, the door slid open. It was Miram. I thought how beautiful she was, forgetting that she could read my thoughts. Thank you, she said graciously. Oh, I forgot, I thought. It's all right. Now relax. It was hard for me to relax with her so near. I watched as she gathered the crystals she would use. I thought, please, I would like very much to be rid of this beak so I can talk. I know, Esser. She took her place at the beautiful harp that was built at the end of the room. She played certain tones, and the chamber sparkled with green and white. As she played, my face changed. I could feel my beak disappearing. A nose grew out onto my changing head. Ears also grew out from the side of my head. Then the strongest sensation was my feathers turning into hair. It grew like grass from the base of each feather. It tickled. I suddenly felt this mane of hair touch my shoulders. However, the feathers on my back and down through my tail remained. I still would be referred to as a thing. But I now had a face. A human face. When the music stopped, I heard Miram get up from the harp. Please, quietly lie here for a while for your body to equalize. I watched as she seemed to float out the door. The door closed behind her. I was so disappointed she had left me alone. I wanted to use my new voice. I cleared my throat trying to test the waters before she came back. I tried to speak. And back to clearing my voice. I thought perhaps that was what she meant by quietly lying here, so I lay there waiting and waiting and waiting. Where was she, I thought. I wanted to get up. I wanted even longer than I heard the door open slowly, the stone on stone heavily scratching the floor. Unfortunately, it was not her, but Sale. You may get up now. He looked closely at my face. Very nice. Once again, I was disappointed by her disappearance. Where is... Miram is quite busy. It would be good for you to rest your voice a while longer. Perhaps in the morning it will have equalized in your body. I sighed with disappointment. I felt my face and the black hair that hung off my head. Sale smiled. Come with me. He led me outside the room into the hallway of mirrors that extended from the main room. It was there that I saw my face for the first time. Sale stood next to me and smiled as I examined my new face and hair. Hair? That was interesting. I always loved my feathers. At least I still had them on my chest, back, and tail. It would be sad to see them go someday. But to be a complete man, I had to lose them. I put my new fingers through my hair. It was an interesting feeling. It was so soft. I liked it. At that moment, I realized I'd never felt anything before. My wings felt air and pain, but not touch. It was an interesting feeling. I opened my robe and touched the white feathers on my chest. I admired their beauty. They were soft, too, but different. I touched myself all over as if introducing myself to my new body. I wanted to talk and was about to try again when Sale put his fingers to his lips to silence me. I nodded and looked back into the mirror, smiling. I had teeth. I looked at them up close in the mirror. Teeth. What an experience! After a few more minutes of exploration, I straightened my robe in the mirror and put my hand through my hair one last time. Then I nodded a thank you to Sale and headed home.